A day to remember for the rest of your lives.
There's a great promise for all of you.
The Pro Football Hall of Fame and Extreme Networks present the Heart of a Hall of Famer program. With nearly 100 Hall of Famers participating, we have reached 48 states around this country, sharing the message that football is more than a game and can teach Americans how to huddle up during a time when we need to be united.
It's time for America to take a real deep dive. Not at no one else, but at yourself individually. If you want to change America, don't brush your teeth with your head down. Look at who you are and be the example. Be the example.
An opportunity to meet and learn from one of the greatest football players of all time. But more than that, the chance to see that their Hall of Fame life wasn't given to them. Single-parent homes, drug-infested neighborhoods, and poverty.
I grew up in a neighborhood that was considered one of the worst in America, and the household I grew up in was one of the worst in that neighborhood. By the time I was 20 years old, I knew at least 30 friends or family members who had lost their lives. Football became like a second parent to me. It taught me the things that my father wasn't there to teach me, and that my mother, as a struggling, single-parent woman, just didn't know to teach me.
But they learn how to live a life of character before pursuing their football careers. Today, you will learn you can do the same that they once did. Making good decisions can lead to a prosperous life both on and off the field. Your game for life has already begun. It's your decision whether or not you want to be a successful student, son, daughter, brother, or sister.
Every one of you can have a Hall of Fame life, whether or not you play football. You can be as great as you want to be. The Hall of Fame is all about integrity, character, and excellence. You have the opportunity to represent yourself that way. You determine your character.
Welcome to a once-in-a-lifetime program, the Heart of a Hall of Famer.
And a lot of challenging moments, and just being like, I got to tap out, and I don't know if I can do this. Definitely, and I don't know if I can pull this off moment. I don't, you look at the clock and there's another 40 minutes of practice, and wondering how am I going to get those 40 minutes in before. So you just find that power, that willpower, and just move on and just keep grinding and keep going. The lessons learned early were being a team player, being persistent, and staying after it. I think determination. There you go. Determination, fighting through adversity. Those are some of the things I think as a young man I took those points and carried them forward. It doesn't always work out the way you plan it for, whether it's on the football field or in the classroom or wherever it may be. It doesn't work out always the way you want it to, but if you stay after it and keep working, it might come your way. If you quit, it's not going to.
All right, with that, I'd like to welcome everybody here to Canton, Ohio, the Pro Football Hall of Fame, for our latest installment, the last one of the school year this year, our Heart of a Hall of Famer program powered by Extreme Networks. Today, featuring brand new Hall of Famer, class of 2021, Steeler, Jet, Cardinal, pretty good guy, Mr. Alan Faneca, and we'll get to him in a second. But as you know, my name is Jake Ray, and I am the Youth and Education Manager here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio, the most inspiring place on earth. And our mission here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame is to honor the heroes of the game, to preserve its history, to promote its values, and to celebrate excellence everywhere. And those values we promote are those of commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and excellence, all of which not only make our Hall of Famers great football players on the field, they make them even better people off the field. And we're going to hear how those values impacted Mr. Faneca's career today, both on and off the field. And it's going to be really cool because throughout the program, you're going to continually hear these values pop up in all these answers. And it just goes to show that the game of football can truly teach so many great, important life lessons. Before we get started, before we turn things over to our special guests, I do like to send out a few thank yous. First off, I got to thank our great partners at Extreme Networks for all the great work they do for us here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. They make this program possible for students across the country. They do a lot of great work for our department, a lot of great work with NFL teams, schools, colleges all over the country. So thank you for them and all the great work that you guys put into helping us make this program possible. Secondly, I'd like to thank our teachers, administrators, educators, anybody who allowed us to come into your classroom today to help you learn a little bit about character education and the values that the game of football can teach. We know this school year has been a crazy one, and we are just super excited that you allowed us to just be a small part of your crazy learning experience that this has been the 2020-2021 school year. And then lastly, and maybe most importantly, got to thank our students. Without you guys today, this program doesn't take place. I'm super excited. I know Mr. Faneca is as well, to hear all the great questions you guys have. I know you guys are going to come up with some good ones, maybe try and stump him a little bit with your questions. But we are super excited to hear those questions today. And thank you so much for connecting in, and students and teachers as well, being a part of the program. If you aren't connected into our Zoom conference today and you're watching us live on YouTube, I've got the chat pulled over here to my right. Make sure you submit your questions if you're watching us. Tell us your name, the school you go to, and then ask us a question there in that chat, and we'll do our best to make it part of the program. You students who are tuned in as interactive, you're going to get the chance to ask the questions today. So make sure when you're ready, you step up to that microphone, you tell Mr. Faneca your name, the school you go to, and then go ahead and ask your question. So without further ado, enough of me talking, turn things over for any special opening remarks from our guest today, class of 2021 in Shiny, Mr. Alan Faneca. Alan, welcome to the program today.
Thanks for having me. First off, man, this is a special occasion for me, man. It's my first time to kind of step out and be a part of the Hall of Fame and be a part of the family at the Hall of Fame to express how we are and what we're all about. And, a lot of the things we're going to talk about today, commitment, integrity, and courage and respect are all things that, as I was growing up, as you saw in that video, you don't really realize you're learning them all along the way, along the path. But when you look back on it, they were so integral in who you become as an adult. And as you guys are kids and as you're growing up, you'll look back on it and see the great things that you've learned through sports, from your teachers, from your parents. And I look forward to today.
Awesome. Well, I'll start things off. Perks of being the host, I get to ask the first question. You look throughout your career, you mentioned our 5 values there: commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and excellence. Throughout your career, both on and off the field, is there one of those values that stands out as most important to you, or do they all kind of play their own individual role in both football, and life off the field?
I think they all have their part. For me personally, I think commitment comes to mind first and probably sits at the top, because when you step out there and you do things, and whether you're on a football field or a basketball gym or in the classroom, you have to have the commitment to finish the job, to start the job, to continue to do the job. Commitment stands out first in my mind. Integrity, your core belief values, man, just to be who you are all the time is a great aspect of leaders. And that's kind of what we're talking about here. These are values of leaders in the classroom, on the field. Courage to do something you're not ready to do, right? Like take the test, to stand up in front of the classroom and talk, play the big game. Courage is huge. And respect and excellence. You combine all of those things and you're going to get the excellence. And it's just going to put all the pieces together. And you're not even going to realize that at this young age that they are being put together, but they are. And it's going to be great.
I think it's pretty cool that, when it's all said and done, whatever career you get into, we're going to talk a lot about football today and how the game, impacted your life both on and off the field. But when you kind of take this step back and look at your career as a whole, those values had an important piece of that. And it's cool to see that. So, going throughout your career, we've talked about the importance of that, but it's applying those to your everyday life, your real life, when, your character is truly tested. So throughout your career, was there a moment where your character might have been tested and you really had to look at those 5 values and apply those as best you could, whether it be on the field or off the field?
Certainly. I think the thing that comes to mind for me is when I got released from the New York Jets. I went there and played 2 seasons after 10 with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it just wasn't working out for them or for me, and they released me. And that's a big wake up call for a professional football player, and it's a little bit of a gut check and a reality check. And you have to start leaning on all these things we're talking about, and make decisions that you've never had to make before, and deciding to continue to play football or not continue to play football, and which way you're going to go, and to have the courage to keep going forward and keep pushing.
And I'm sure we'll dive into kind of your career journey today. I've got all the teams behind me represented here that you played with, and I'm sure we'll talk about, all the different paths that you took throughout your career. But why we're here today is we're here to hear these questions from the students. So we're going to start kind of going through all of our classrooms we've got connected in today. And I'm going to start with a pretty special one. We're going to start there in Virginia Beach with Cape Henry School. And I believe we've got a classroom with some very special people that you probably know pretty well. So we're going to start with Jennifer, Miss Cockrell's classroom. So go ahead and have a student step up to the microphone and ask our first question today for our program.
Okay, Mahi, come on. All right. Hello. Here comes Mahi.
Hi, my name is Mahi, and I have a question for Mr. Faneca. What year did you retire?
I retired in the year 2011.
All right. So, when you look at that, you look back on your career, retiring after a very lengthy career. One of the questions we have is, there comes a time when that it's time to step away, and it's a very hard decision to make. But when did that finally hit you, and what was that moment like, and how did you finally make the decision? It's time to hang up the cleats and call it a career?
And it took me longer to come to the decision that I could walk away from football and make that choice on my own than it took me to decide to retire, because I'd been playing football since I was 8 years old. And here I am, I'm in my early 30s, mid 30s, and that's all I'd been doing. And it was great and amazing and fun. But once I came to that decision that I was allowed to walk away on my own and not get forced out, it was pretty simple. It just felt right. It was the right timing and the right place for myself and my family. And in a little bit of a sense, I was tired. It takes a lot of work and a lot of effort, and I was a little bit tired.
I think after that kind of career, and especially playing offensive line, that's totally okay to admit that after a long career, it was time to kick it back and relax a little bit. And ultimately, you ended up right here in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We're not officially yet. We'll get to that here towards the end, and you'll be officially become a member here in August during our Enshrinement Week powered by Johnson Controls. Next question, we're going to go ahead. We're going to keep it right there at the same school, different classroom. We're going to go to Miss Mulkey's class there at Cape Henry for our next question. So whenever you're ready there, go ahead and have a student step up to the microphone and ask their next question.
All right, we're unmuting. Can you hear us?
All right. Whenever you're ready, go ahead and ask your question.
Hello, my name is Wyatt, and how do you feel as an adult that you are continuing to shape your career?
Ooh, great question.
Great question. In a lot of ways, I didn't realize how my career, just like we talked about, you don't realize what you're going through as a young adult like you guys are. You're looking back on it, and my football career is still shaping my life today, and I'm still learning things about myself by talking with you guys and discussing things that I did as a football player. in my career and off the field. I still continue to learn about myself and improve every day.
I think that's great. And I think it's cool. You know, we talk about a lot about different careers in sports, and, you know, everybody thinks once they get that job, hey, I don't got to learn anymore. I'm done with school. I'm done with classes. I'm done with homework. But there's so much out there where you can continue to learn and continue to better yourself. And, you know, when you retire from the game, you know, some players, you know, hang them up, they kick back, they're done for their career. But a lot of them, and I'm sure you did this as well, you know, you got to get involved in some other things, whether it's being involved in the game, opening a business, starting as an entrepreneur. There's so many different ways that you can continue to learn. So, and those same values you learn from the game, you can apply to that life, you know, after football is over as well. All right, our next class we're going to go to is Belmont County. So Mr. Alt they're a regular attender. I know they've always got good questions. So there, Mr. Alt's class, go ahead and ask your question here for Mr. Faneca.
Who is your favorite teammate?
Favorite teammate?
Favorite teammate.
Yeah.
Yeah. No pressure. Don't feel like you got to call anybody out.
Oh man, you know what? There's so many guys, so many great guys, like Hines Ward, who's going to be presenting me, Jerome Bettis, each and every one of my offensive line teammates, members, guys through the years, Nick Mangold, Marvell Smith, Kendall Simmons. There's so many good guys. You know, that's one of the best things about being a football player is the locker room. And, you know, we're all these grown men that are playing this sport, but we still have this locker room that's just like we were back in middle school or high school. And we still get to goof off and enjoy each other and have fun. And that's what you miss. That's what you really miss. If you talk to a lot of guys, when they're done, you miss the locker room and all those guys that you got to goof off with and have fun.
And I think that's very important, because just like anything else, you know, you have to enjoy doing it to, you know, for it to be successful and, you know, feel comfortable in that. And, you know, we say that, you know, when you work a job, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And I think that for someone, a professional athlete, specifically a football player, you know, that is, you know, you take that to your heart, because that is truly what it is. And you're 100% right. When you ask the question, you know, what do you miss from the game? The answer 99% of the time is that brotherhood, that locker room feeling when you're around your teammates. So it's very cool to hear that, you know, no matter who you are, what your career looked like, and even for you, you know, you played for a bunch of different organizations, you know, and you mentioned teammates from all of those. So very cool to see that. All right, our next question is going to come from Westfield High School, Mr. Cooper's class there. So there, Mr. Cooper, whenever you're ready, go ahead and have the student step up to the microphone and ask their question here for Mr. Faneca.
What was your favorite memory while playing with the Steelers?
You know, easily it's the winning the Super Bowl for me. That's, you know, something since I was in high school, you always dream about playing in the big game, playing in the Super Bowl. And, you know, to be able to go and play in one and to win it, it was just amazing and a surreal moment. I've got a trophy with me, a picture of me holding the trophy, and I got it up in the air and I'm screaming at the top of my lungs, and the confetti's falling all around me. And, you know, every time I walk by it and I pause, I get a little bit of, you know, chills. The hair on the back of my neck starts to stand up. So that's the easy one, and that's the great one. For me, another one, it's kind of a personal one. It's nothing special, nothing great, but it was my very first playoff game at Heinz Field, my first ever playoff game. And I'm in the tunnel and they're about to call my name out. And the crowd is extra loud that day. And I can just hear them kind of thumping in my chest out there making noise. And I kind of had a little moment to myself and stayed there and enjoyed it instead of just running straight out, and told myself, I was like, this is what I'm here to do, is to play in these big games.
Awesome. And I think that's cool, you know, kind of taking a step back and seeing how special that moment is, and something that I'm sure, you know, you yourself, along with so many others, you know, never take for granted when they're presented with an opportunity like that. Very, very special. Got a question here in our YouTube chat. This is from a student. His name is John at Massillon High School from right here in Stark County. He wants to know who or what pushed you to become the best offensive lineman you could be.
Wow. Myself, so many coaches, so many coaches helped me out along the way, pushed me, you know, recognized things in me and pushed me harder than maybe the guys next to me, and were always raising the expectations and the bar for me, and always pushing me to be better and better. And I really attribute that to coaching. I was very fortunate to have great coaching all the way up from elementary school through the NFL, and at every level, always pushing me to be better and not letting me just kind of rest and accept where I'm at as being good. Here I am, I'm in the NFL, and I'm a Pro Bowler, and you could just sit there and be happy and content with that, or you can keep getting better. And I always thank my coaches, man, because they were always pushing me. They always knew that I could always give a little bit more or improve in an area, and we're always right there working with me.
Yeah, and obviously played for a pretty good coach who's also going to be enshrined the same weekend as you here in Canton, Ohio, as with Coach Bill Cowher. And you've talked about some special moments throughout your career. Your first playoff game, the Super Bowl, obviously kind of stands out as the big one. You see the mini Lombardi Trophy there behind you. You talked about that picture, and you have in your house there. But that is kind of, towards the culmination or the end of your career. I want to flash back to the beginning of your career. And the question we like to ask is, what was your welcome to the NFL moment? What was that one moment after you became a member of the brotherhood of that the NFL is, that had to make you step back and go, all right, I'm here. This is the big leagues. We're ready to go. What was that welcome to the NFL moment for you?
Two. So my very first training camp, I've got a pull and play where I'm playing left guard, and I'm supposed to pull off to the right, and I kind of peek out of the corner of my helmet, and I see Levon Kirkland over there. And Levon Kirkland's big linebacker, about 280 pounds, and he was a great player. And I'm like, I got to go get him. And I got over there, I pulled, and I actually kind of snuck him a little bit, but he let up on me, and I let up on him a little bit, because I was a little surprised that I kind of caught this veteran off guard. And he kind of smiled and chuckled, and he said, "You got one. That's it. Next time I got you." But my first one in the game that I go with is we're playing Miami. It's my first game I'm playing in, and we had a turn protection, which generally a turn protection is kind of easy. You're helping your buddy on the inside is helping you, and especially in college, it's easy. But when you get to NFL, it's not so easy. And all of a sudden, Jason Taylor puts his foot in the ground and plants his helmet right in my chest and knocks me on the ground. And I was like, okay, turn protection is not so easy in the NFL. I need to stay on my game.
Awesome. And it's cool to hear everybody's story, because everybody's story is different. But the one kind of similar fact is that there's probably a story that talks about another Hall of Famer, and yours just happens to be recent inductee, Miami Dolphin Jason Taylor. And you mentioned all these moments from your career, all of which we have the great opportunity, and we are lucky to be able to preserve here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You heard part of our mission is to preserve the history. At our core, we are a museum, and that's our job, is to preserve the history of this great game. And what better way to do that than take a deep dive, take a behind the scenes look into our archives right here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Mr. Faneca, you were just here a couple weeks ago, kind of got that behind the scenes tour, met with our special guest who's going to be on camera here in a second, and kind of got to see. But we want to show everybody else some of the cool things that we have on in our archives here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So I would like to welcome friend, coworker, colleague right here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, John Kendall, to the program. John, whenever you're ready, take it away.
Thanks, Jake, and hi, Alan. Good to see you again. This probably looks very familiar to you. As Jake said, you were here just a couple of weeks ago. We got a chance to spend some time together. But my name is John Kendall. I'm Director of Archives and Football Information here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And we are standing in the Ralph Wilson Jr. Pro Football Research and Preservation Center. And so when we talk about that mission to honor the heroes of the game, preserve its history, promote its values, and celebrate excellence everywhere, I'm very honored that we get a chance to really hit on every single one of those points with all that we're doing in our collections area. we're honoring the great heroes of the game by preserving their legacies through their artifacts and their documents. And then we're able to craft stories from their legacy and disseminate those across the world to showcase and highlight those great values that the game teaches: the commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and excellence. And then hopefully we're able to change some lives in the process by showcasing, Alan, your great career and all the great things that you did during your playing days. Hopefully people can understand that those same values that made you great on the football field are the same things that make you a great student or a great teacher or a great business leader or a great artist. Those things transcend the football field. And so, just a few things that we have in our collection related to your career. Your career did span both our hard copy era, so when we were actually preserving paper and things like that, into our digital age. Now a lot of things are digital that we're saving to our server, but we have newspaper articles related to your playing career. We have scouting report here. We just got done with the NFL draft. This was a scouting report that the NFL had put out. I love aggressive drive blocker, known for his durability. You played, 206 games in the National Football League. It's just a remarkable number. Like I said, your photo collection spans from the hard copy to digital. I pulled this when you were here just recently, the game program from your very first career start, which happened against the Cincinnati Bengals here. And then since 1997, we've received the draft card of every player drafted into the National Football League. And so it was really my honor to be able to show you your draft card, because what better way when you're talking about preserving the legacy or creating a personal archive for each individual player, the 25,474 individuals who played one NFL regular season snap since 1920. What better way to start that than with their draft card? That's the card that the team fills out, hands to the NFL saying, we're selecting this player. So really a phenomenal artifact, and loved having the opportunity to showcase that to you. And then just so you know, Alan, we're getting ready to build your locker exhibit as we speak. So anything that as you go through your collection at home that you think tells your story the best, certainly send it on to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We'll make sure it gets on display and we showcase your legacy for future generations of not only fans, but really your family as they come here to celebrate you in August, which I'm really looking forward to. One question I do have before I send it back, there's some great headlines here, talking about, your versatility moving from guard to tackle in certain situations. But I love this here, spreading hope in Pittsburgh. And my question to you, Alan, would be, we know you accomplished so many great things on the football field as a player. What's one or two things that you really take great pride in that you were able to accomplish off the field during your playing days?
I think definitely it's the charity work that my wife Julie and I were able to do, and to outreach and to use the fame of being an NFL player and to put it to good use. And we helped a good friend of ours there in Pittsburgh with the Glimmer of Hope Foundation that does a tremendous amount of work for women with breast cancer and the research and rehabilitation and helping them in their process. And that's something that Julie and I will always be happy of. And the other thing is bringing more awareness to epilepsy. I talk about it a lot, but it still doesn't, it surprises people to this day, but I have epilepsy. And, I think it's great to get out and talk about it and to let people know that, we're amongst you. I've been saying lately, kind of like a scary movie a little bit, we're amongst you, we're everywhere and we're living normal lives. And it's not all that you do on TV that scares you. Epilepsy is not just all about that. And I'm proud about those two things for sure.
Well, fantastic. I will throw it back to Jake, but first I just want to say once again, congratulations, and really look forward to having you here in Canton in August celebrating. Thank you for all you've done for the game, and thank you for everything that you're going to do for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Yes. Thank you, John. And I like what that question was, focusing on life off the field and all the different things. We have a program that talks about the Walter Payton Man of the Year Award. And in one of the videos we show Hall of Fame running back LaDainian Tomlinson talks about, the stats and accolades on the field are going to fade away one day. But everything you do off the field and in your community, they're going to remember that for the rest of their lives. And I think that what you talked about right there truly echoes that the impact somebody can have off the field. And you just don't have to be a Hall of Fame offensive lineman. You can be a student now. You could help somebody with their books or pick up trash. It's those little things in life that truly are going to make a difference far, far, far down the road. We're going to dive back into our schools now. We have a bunch more we want to get to. Our next school is going to be Bridges Elementary School, Miss Hammond's class. And I got an email. They actually had a fire drill, but they're back in, ready to go. So whenever you're ready there at Bridges, go ahead and step up to the microphone and ask your question.
My name is Mackenzie, and my question is, what qualities have you personally gained from playing football?
First, did everybody make it out on the fire drill? Did y'all all make it out properly and find your spot? All right, good. Everybody passed. That's great. I think courage and integrity are two of the biggest things that I learned through football. The team atmosphere and to be accountable with each other, with your peers in your classroom, your teammates, stick out the most. And you go with respect and commitment. They're all things that I've learned through football and have made me a better person. I still use them every day to day. And I coach football now on high school level, and I still try and teach those skills to the guys that I'm coaching and help them along in that way.
I would say those are probably some pretty lucky high school kids there, getting to be coached by now Hall of Famer Alan Faneca. And I think I want to kind of touch on that a little bit. When you do coach, a lot of kids today don't even know the career that you had. So is from your perspective, is it cool to kind of step out of the Hall of Famer Alan Faneca for a little bit and become just Coach Faneca? Or is there or do the two worlds kind of blend together and bleed together when you're out there with the headset on?
They do occasionally, it's definitely fun. They love catching me like in the little between moments on a water break or something. They want to hear a story. They want to know something about the past. And I'll share some tidbits with them as long as they've been putting in the work and working hard for me. Otherwise, I kind of drag them all along a little bit, make them earn the next story. But it's fun. It's great. And I love being around the kids.
Awesome. And another great way to, kind of give back after your career is over. Our next group, we're going to go to Patrick Elementary School right here in Canton, Ohio for our next question. Again, always great to have them as part of the program. So we're super excited to hear what their question is today. So whenever you're ready there at Patrick, go ahead and ask your question.
What advice can you give young people about how to develop their character?
Great question. Great question. I think the best way to develop character is to be a good listener, I think that's definitely a way to start building character and more character, to be more aware of the people around you, and to use that to build your character by listening and being respectful of yourself and the others around you. And I think it'll just slowly start to grow. Great question.
Yeah, great question. Our next question, we're going to go down to Valley View High School down south there. Coach has got his class ready to go. So whenever you're ready there at Valley View, go ahead and ask your question.
Transitioning from high school football into college and into NFL, what was the hardest part of going to the next level?
Let's see. So going from high school to college, you're definitely stepping up to play with the big boys. I think that the two things about both of those transitions from high school to college and then college to the NFL is, at each previous level, there may have been one or two guys on your level or three or four, and then all of a sudden you step up and there's more. So then, you go from high school to college and all of a sudden there's a whole bunch of guys that are really good on the field. And then when you go from college to the NFL, everybody is good. And I think a lot of people talk about the the speed of the game increases when you go from college to the NFL. And I don't really think it's the speed of the game. It's just that everybody's moving at that same speed, and that's what makes it move faster.
Yeah, and I think the two, you can kind of look at, I kind of want to follow up with that. What was the transition like out of the game? We know you talked about being able to step away and missing the locker room and missing the brotherhood, but what was like that transition for you, like, after your career was over? That first Sunday in the fall when it rolled around, did the biological clock turn on and you're like, oh, shoot, should be getting ready for a 1 p.m. kickoff today? What was that transition like for you?
It was awkward. I had a buddy, Jeff Hardings, that I played with that retired a couple years before me. And he told me, he's like, you'll see when you're done, you'll kind of step away for a little while and you'll kind of drift back to it eventually, talking about football. And I was like, no way. I just couldn't see it at that time. And then, so it's the very first, it's kickoff Sunday, and I'm outside and I'm barbecuing with the family. It's about 7:00 at night. And I haven't even thought about a football game. And I was like, oh my goodness, I've missed everything except the night game. And I was like, darn it, Jeff was right. And, but you slowly kind of come back to it. I think I've heard this story from a lot of guys. You kind of break off for a little while and you kind of take just a little break. And then all of a sudden you're right back in it.
All right. Our next question is going to come from Miss Coyne's class there at Leona Middle School. So whenever you're ready there, go ahead and have your student step up to the mic. It looks like they're walking up now, and ask their question.
My name is Kayla. I go to Leona Middle School. My name is Kayla, and I want to know, now that you're retired, what your dream is to do next.
Ooh, great question.
Kayla, I'm still working on that answer. I've enjoyed a lot of things. I've enjoyed my family since I've retired, and I've done a couple of little small business opportunities here and there. And currently I'm coaching high school football, which keeps me busy. And as well, I'm coaching all my kids' sports, basketball and baseball and flag football we're doing right now. So I stay busy very much and just keep the doors open to whatever is possible.
Awesome. And I think that's the right mentality to have, because you never know what might come down the road next, a different opportunity, a different, way to connect with your kids, connect with your family. So I think it's very cool to keep that open mindset, no matter how old you are, and, be open to maybe try some new things and try some new perspectives and, work on yourself as a whole, because that's what's really going to develop those character qualities that we talked about at the beginning. And it's cool to see how those always keep popping up in everything that you do. Last school that we have on our list today is Sussex. Mr. Faneca, I saw you smile before we started today because this teacher's got her Troy Polamalu jersey on. She's got her terrible towel face mask ready to go. She's waving the terrible towel right now. So we're going to throw it to Miss Stouffer's class and have them ask our next question.
What was the hardest team?
Tell me your name.
My name is LeBron. And what was the hardest team you played against?
Hardest team you played against?
The hardest team I played against, it would have to be the Baltimore Ravens. That was our big rivalry when I was playing, and those games were knockdown, drag-out games that were always hard battles. You always were sore on Mondays after the games, and the NFL always made sure that those games were on primetime television because they knew what those games were all about.
Obviously going up. So we talked about, your welcome to the NFL moment there with Jason Taylor, but what was it like, throughout your entire career, knowing 2 times a year you had to go against Ray Lewis and you had to go against Ed Reed? Was there more preparation going into games like that because you knew the amount of talent that, that Baltimore Ravens defense through that stretch is known as maybe the greatest defense of all time? So what was it for you having to go up against that? And was there extra preparation, or was it like, hey, we know what we're getting ourselves into. This is just another game. We're going to approach it like that.
I think we prepared pretty much the same, but I think expectations on our end had to change. You had to realize that, you're maybe not Trick Ray on this play, and Ed's going to be able to cover that a lot quicker. So it definitely, you have to adjust a lot quicker and just be prepared to adjust on the fly and just be ready. And especially, Ray and I had so many battles right there in the middle. So we were always in each other's space. And he was such a smart player and made my life hard. So definitely great challenges, man. I love the challenge. I loved the chess match part of the aspect of football, of trying to figure things out before the snap and getting into the right play. I love that. And a lot of that was a big challenge with Ed and Ray right there, because they were so smart themselves and were always adjusting. And it was just like chess pieces moving around out there.
All those great battles, and now you're on the same team. Another really, really cool thing about the game of football, that you guys have all these great battles throughout your careers, probably helped make each other Hall of Famers, at the end of the day. So very cool relationship to have there. I want to talk about, because we focused on the Steelers a lot. You spent a lot of your career there in Pittsburgh, playing for the Steelers, but you also played for the Jets, as you mentioned, and the Cardinals as well. And when you were with the Jets, you were brought in to kind of mentor a very young offensive line. So this is kind of a two-part question. What was it like for you to kind of take on that role, being a mentor, being a leader for a very young core? And then your quarterback at that time was none other than Hall of Famer Brett Favre. So what was it like to be on the same team as the gunslinger, as Brett Favre?
That was great. Didn't expect that at all, to get to play with Brett Favre and to be a part of that. He's a great guy and has just a great passion for the game. And, he's really just like a little kid running around goofing off and having fun and bouncing around the field, just like a teenager. But, coming in and being a mentor and trying to bring that attitude to New York, it's hard. The first step is you got to make relationships, right? You come from a place in Pittsburgh where you've established these relationships and connections for a decade. And all of a sudden you've got to try and do your best to recreate that in a short time period. And, you kind of have to step out of your shell a little bit and go beyond maybe what you normally would do in a given day and try and make those things happen. And that was probably the biggest challenge for me going there.
So we've mentioned guys like, let me just look back, because I had to write all these names down. Jason Taylor, Jerome Bettis, yourself, Ed Reed, Ray Lewis, Brett Favre, Hall of Famers who have all gotten to take part in that enshrinement ceremony, something that you will get to do this coming August. So part of what we wanted to do is we wanted to give you a little preview of maybe your view of what your enshrinement speech might look like. So I'm going to actually throw it out to Nathan Martin, a youth and education coordinator here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, who's standing right where you get to give your enshrinement speech.
Yeah, Jake, thank you so much for sending it out here. And like you were saying, I am in Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium. It's right outside the Pro Football Hall of Fame, the museum. I can see the rotunda from where I'm standing. And this area right here gets transformed into a stage that not only hosts a concert the weekend of Enshrinement Week powered by Johnson Controls, but it hosts Enshrinement. And this is where, Mr. Faneca, you'll be standing when you give maybe, the most significant speech you've given in your life, thanking so many people that have helped you along the way in your career. And I just got to ask, because it's really cool to be out here. Luckily, the weather cooperated with us. What are you looking forward to most about giving that speech? And have you started writing it yet?
Oh man, I have been writing it. So that process is pretty much done for me, thankfully. I think for me, the most exciting thing is to get up there, enjoy the moment, and to be able to thank everybody who's been such a special part of my journey, and to maybe explain my journey a little bit, but to especially thank those people who've been so special to me and who were a big part of the reason why I'll be up there.
Yeah, I know it's got to feel great to kind of have that nervousness or anxiousness off your plate. The fact that you've got your speech basically finished up. I'm sure you might make some late adjustments as you get closer, but I would encourage the students, it'll be a really awesome opportunity to hear more from Mr. Faneca and learn a little bit more about his career and hear the people that had such a great impact on the success that he had and why he's one of the greatest 354 players to ever play the game of football and will have one of those bronze busts, here in Canton. So thanks again for doing the program with us. I'm going to send it back to Jake to kind of wrap things up for us today.
All right. Thanks, Nathan. Thanks for giving us a kind of a look at what the enshrinement ceremony here during Enshrinement Week powered by Johnson Controls will look like. Got some questions flying in on here on YouTube, so we're going to jump to those. And this is actually from Gabe Plunkett, who's a student at the Hughes Educational Center in New York. And he wants to know, how does it feel to be traded to another team? And you talked about, being released and signing with the Jets, but what is that transition like, from that you had to make from Pittsburgh to New York and then ultimately to Arizona to play with the Cardinals?
It's strange, a little bit strange, a little different. You get used to wearing, black and gold all of a sudden. And then I go to New York and you're in the locker room and you got a green shirt on and the carpet's green and everything's green everywhere. And it's a little bit of a shock. But you adapt to it, you get used to it. And, some of the best things outside of football from that is going to see different parts of the country and enjoy different ways of how people live life and to experience things and to be a part of other communities and help them as well.
Yeah, I think, we talked about it before. That's kind of the important thing, the legacy that's left off the field, and to be able to do it in 3 different cities, one of which being New York, one of the biggest in the country, definitely is a cool thing to be able to look back on your career on and say, I left an impact in these so many different areas. Some more questions we got coming up, and this has been asked a few times, and I want to make sure we touched on it. Students at Massillon wants to know, do you have any hobbies or interests? And then we had Miss Stouffer's class wanted to know what it was like to start running marathons. So what was that transition like for you from offensive lineman to marathon runner? First of all, why was that the goal? Because, to be honest with you, it's something I actually completed last year. I did my first full marathon. I ran a half a marathon actually on Sunday. Well, I ran 9 miles. The knee kind of said, you're only doing 9. You're going to walk the rest of the way. But what was that like for you? And was that always a goal, or is it like, hey, you know what? We're going to give this a shot?
It was never a goal of mine. It was never a goal. My wife, Julie, she was running a half marathon with some friends and was trying to get me to do it with them. And this was right after I retired and I had lost my weight. And I was like, I'm good. You girls have fun, have fun. And then eventually I started to run some of like the shorter days with her, 2 miles, 1 mile. And I went to the race with them to go watch it. It was out in Las Vegas. And kind of got the juices flowing a little bit being there on race day. And I kind of got into it. So I started running with her on the way when we got back. And then one day, Julie couldn't make the run for some reason. And I went for a run. And normally we ran about 3 or 4 miles. And it was about half the park in New Orleans that we were running in. And then I decided to go left instead of right. And I went all the way around the park. And it was about 7 miles. And I barely made it back to my car, and there was some walking and debating what in the world I had just done. But it actually kind of woke up my competitive spirit again and got the juices flowing. And I just started running. I started training for a half marathon, and I go up to Pittsburgh to watch a game, and I'm talking to some of the training staff there, and they all run marathons and triathlons, and they're very competitive. And I tell them what I'm doing, and they say, well, how far did you run? Your longest run. And I had just run 9 miles. And they go, oh, you got that. You got the half marathon. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, you just called me out. You just called me out. So I went home. I had a buddy that does trains runners, and called him up and I said, well, I'm doing a full. I need some help. Let's do it. And my goal was to beat 4 hours, and I beat it by 3 minutes.
All right.
And that was that.
Awesome. Yeah, very cool. It was something that, kind of the same thing. It kind of just happened. There was a 5K, here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And I'm like, well, that'd be kind of cool to do. And then that turned into another 5K, which turned into a few more 5Ks, which turned into a Tough Mudder. And then all of a sudden, I'm training for a full marathon. Now, I can definitely say probably won't do another one after doing one. It is definitely taxing on the body for sure. But it's a cool way for me to kind of get away from everything. It's a stress reliever, and it's keeping me in shape as well. getting towards wrapping up here. I have a few more questions we want to touch on. And, the NFL draft just happened last week, here in Cleveland. So big rival of yours, obviously, here in Cleveland. I was actually got to be there. You should have heard the boos for Pittsburgh when they were up to pick every time. But something that came out, prior to the draft about Ohio State quarterback Justin Fields also dealing with epilepsy. And, there were a bunch of stories for you coming out and speaking on your experiences and, how tough it actually is to have epilepsy and be a high functioning football player, like yourself. Justin Fields, obviously the 11th overall pick in the draft. So why did you feel that you had to come out and talk about your experiences and, looking back on it, what are those lessons you want not only Justin to learn, but everybody else who reads the story or watches a video like this?
Well, first thing that comes to mind for me is I didn't really like the timing of it, because it's about the timing of it's that time of the draft time where people are leaking information and bringing up things. And I'm sure the teams knew about his epilepsy already. It just wasn't out there. But so I kind of wanted to go to bat for him a little bit. I felt, he was probably in a spot where, keeping your mouth quiet is probably what's best for him as a football player that's about to go through the draft. And so I just wanted to speak up and speak my mind and let people know that I had done it and that he can do it, and that, we people with epilepsy are able to do things just like everybody else.
I think it's very cool to see, because I'm sure Justin Fields didn't expect Hall of Famer Alan Faneca, to come out in his defense. So very cool. And we talked about the brotherhood, and even somebody who wasn't in the NFL yet, obviously now is going to be, competing for a starting spot with the Bears. But that you guys are one big family. Like you said, guys being football players and everybody who has had an impact on the game. And that's one thing I want to touch on. You look back on your career and, we always say our Hall of Famers, the game of football wouldn't be like it is today without anybody who had 1 second in the NFL. John mentioned the number of players who have been dressed for one game. So looking back on your career as a football player, is something you want somebody to take away from that? Is it that, what, I'm a Hall of Famer now, my on the field success was great? Is it the off the field legacy? What is one thing you want somebody to take away when they look back at Alan Faneca's career?
I think the type of character that I brought to the field, to the game, that I carried with me off of the field and doing the things that my wife Julie and I were able to do off of the field are probably two of the biggest things. And doing those two things with character is what led me to be a Hall of Fame player and carried me throughout my career. And, I still, I tell kids today, I say, your character walks through the door before you do, because what you do day in and day out is your character. It's not what you pull out on special occasions, but people already know your character a little bit, the kids, your peers around you, and you just can't pull it out when you want to. You have to do it all the time.
I like that. We got to talk to Jason Taylor before Super Bowl 55 down there in Miami, or 54 in Miami, excuse me. And he kind of said the same thing. He said, character isn't like a pamphlet and just hand it out. You have to build your character, and it's not just going to happen at the snap of your fingers. You're going to go through trials. You're going to go through tough times, but that all are put in place to help you build your character and are going to help you in the long run. We're winding down here. Got time for a couple more questions. And I want to kind of flash back. We just ended the draft. Obviously, all 259 people were selected. So many more undrafted free agents signed to hopefully make an impact on their team. But looking back at your experience, if you were sitting down with somebody who was picked in the first round, or they were Mr. Irrelevant at the end of the draft, what would be one thing you wish you might have known coming out of college into the NFL?
Oh man. You realize it's short enough, but I don't think going in, you really realize that it does turn into a job, and this is your 9 to 5, and it will be all encompassing. And just to be prepared to put in that time and that commitment to it is definitely something I didn't really think about going into it, because you're kind of in the college life, you're going to classes, you're playing, you're practicing in the afternoons, lifting weights in the morning, but now you're doing that all day long, and it's part of what you're going to do, and it is your 9 to 5, and it's, Not something I thought about before I got to Pittsburgh.
All right. We're going to wrap up the program here. We got one more question. And this is a question we like to wrap every program up with because we think it's a great way to kind of sum up all the great points that were made today. You talk so much about your career on the field, the legacy you left off the field, advice to build your character and truly make people as good as they can be. But if you wanted everybody who's tuned in today, all of our interactive classes, all of our classes we have watching on YouTube, all of us here at the Hall of Fame, what is that one piece of advice you want everybody to walk away with today?
Be who you are. Don't worry about what's next to you, who's next to you, what's around you. Be who you are, right? We look at all these things, all these people that are on pop culture and on TV and the people we look up to, and why are they popular, and why are we paying attention to them or looking at them? Because they embraced who they were. They didn't try and conform to be everybody else. They embraced who they were, and by being different made them who they are. And we're all different, and we can all be who we are and not try to be each other.
I think that's very important. Just be you, right? Just be who you are, you're with your family, your school. Just be you. So with that, we're going to wrap up this installment in the last program of the school year. Can't think of a better way to end it than with a new Hall of Famer, Mr. Alan Faneca, class of 2021. So Alan, again, thank you so much for being a part of the program today, taking time out of your busy schedule to talk with us at the Hall of Fame and truly students literally across the entire country about your career. As I said, as John said, I echo what he said. Thank you for everything you've done for the game of football. It wouldn't be like it is today without your influence. And thank you for everything in your short time that you've done for us here at the Hall of Fame. And we'll know you continue to do, after you get to put that gold jacket on here coming up in August. So again, thank you so much. And all of our students, everybody tuned in today, let's give one last round of applause, big clap here for our special guest today, Mr. Alan Faneca. And again, Alan, thank you so much. Thank you for all you do for the game. Thank you for everything you do for us here at the Hall of Fame. And truly, thank you for being a part of the program today.
Thank you very much. It's been fun.
All right. With that, I'd like to thank everybody who's tuned in. If you're on YouTube, if you're a classroom who's connected in, thank you for being a part of our, not only today, but all of our programming throughout the year. We truly cannot thank you enough. And we cannot wait to see you next year. Hopefully, we'll get to start doing some stuff more in person and getting out to these schools and seeing you guys face to face. So again, for everybody, Alan, from all of us here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, thank you so much. And we'll see you right here next time.